they said.
Own a bar, they said. Is there a better sound?
There's not.
Is there a better sound than Pendleton 20 year or, your beverage of choice, whatever it is? You going a little heavy there? A little heavy there, Haas? My kids say the best sound is this because they like soda and can't drink yet.
Yeah. And I'll tell you,
not bad.
Not a bad sound. The greatest sounds in owning your own bar, yes, I would say the liquor hitting the ice or popping the cork in the first place.
Ooh, on a bottle of Prosecco and
greatest
everybody
sounds
cheers.
you hear in a bar may be one of the topics we need to discuss at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. But I do love the Prosecco top popping because that's something that we've done forever, just for fun with our family.
Gets the crowd engaged in it all,
And now it's like we'll be walking through and somebody opens a bottle and people we don't even know are cheering.
Hey, popping bottles on a bar, they said.
It's the best.
I think those are a lot of the fun things in owning a bar that when you're in development of the concept and all those things, like it's going to be this way all the time. It's only going to be the fun things in owning your own bar.
That's what you think. And I think you have to have that vision or that thought in order to go through the hell that you're going to go through and in order to stay the course and actually finish the job of getting the bar open.
100%. 100%. Well, for all of you viewers out there in Cyberland, own a bar, they said. I'm Josh. It's my brother-in-law and business partner. Wait, I'm Jared. You're Josh. You're still my brother-in-law and business partner. We've been friends for a long time. We married sisters. I know that sounds like some Arkansas shit. It's not. They're sisters. We are unrelated completely in any form.
As far as we know.
As far as we know. Good thing that, what is that genealogy thing? That's
23andMe?
23andMe. Yeah.
Or there's another one.
We're not going to worry about that one. But we decided 3.5 years ago on vacation in Mexico with our wives.
Yeah.
This whole bar concept kind of came to us. So that's what this channel is. You're going to hear the trials, the tribulations, the challenges, the obstacles, the victories, the behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, so to speak, of not just owning your own bar, because that's what we own together, but owning your own business, because I think it's very relevant to people who decide to end the corporate tango and be like, nope, I want to dance by myself. I want my name on the marquee. I want to push all my chips in the middle, and where they land, who the hell knows, but at least I will be in control of that whole process.
Yeah. I think there are different types of people, and I'm learning this. I used to think that everybody was just wired the same way that I am and that you are. Like, hey, I want to work for myself. That's the end goal. That's always the end goal. But my oldest daughter, Kate, is 18. Her goal is to just have a job that she appears to at the same time every day, that she works at, and then leaves the same time every day. And she's like, I want to have the structure. I want to have the dependability, the security to know that I show up and work and I leave. And I'm like, well, you don't have the security because they could call you in at any point and tell you, sorry, you've given a lot to the company. You're a great asset, but we're going a different way. And you're done. You're out on the street. So at least this way, we fire ourselves. We fail for ourselves. There's not some other person in an office somewhere making a decision based off the numbers. It's us.
And I think, so give you a little bit of background out there, since we're meeting for the first time on TikTok or Instagram or wherever you pick up these video podcasts, whatever they're called nowadays. I spent the last 24 years in the corporate world, primarily hospitality and golf. Josh has been building his own small brands in a small town, Belton, Texas, for the last 15 years.
Hey, Big Red Enough said.
Hell yeah, it is. 15 years? Is that how long?
We moved back to Belton in March 9th of 2012. So 13 years.
Damn. Time flies when you own a bar.
Yep. The bar we've only owned for the last, I don't know, when do you say we opened on May 30th?
I think it starts when you start the LLC. When you're officially official,
Well, then we started the LLC in 2023, like February of 2023 is when we officially formed it. The vision was cast in, I guess, 2022.
Mexico.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So, okay, technically we are 2 years. We've owned a bar for 2 years.
Well, and you're, we're in Mexico. We're on vacation. I know that sounds bougie and privileged, but it's whatever. The company I worked for had a great deal for the resorts in Mexico, so we took full advantage.
Yeah.
But I come at it from, listen, I've spent 24 years working and making money for somebody else.
Yep.
You'd spent the last 12 years building some small businesses up, your own title company. Your wife has her own counseling practice, your law firm, which kind of, helps feed a lot of those different things. And I came from it where I wasn't unhappy. I worked for a great company. I worked with some really great people. But at the end of the day, the amount of both control on what I received, I guess the easiest way I put this, Josh, is I was content, but not fulfilled.
Okay.
And so this started as a conversation, as most great visions start with cocktails.
Yep.
If you can add crystal blue water and white sandy beaches of Mexico, Riviera Maya, even better.
Yeah.
Because there's no prohibitive thought out there when you allow yourself to relax and just think about things and say, hey, I want to do something different. Well, you hear me say, I want to do something different. And you're like, I could do something a little different.
Yeah.
What should that different look like? And then kind of spurred this conversation. You and I had just gotten into the world of bourbon and whiskey.
Yeah. Maybe a year before we'd kind of started toying with that. Up to that point, not much. I mean, we had beer and stuff, but I would say, God, I'm 45 now. So probably the last 15 years. So maybe I was 30 when we first really started doing like, hey, let's Coors Light, and then from Coors Light into whatever other actual non-water beer there is.
That family tree in any young male's life, typically you're going to start at some point in high school in a pasture party, at least if you're in Texas, that is.
Guilty.
For me, Bartles and James wine coolers.
Yeah.
Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill.
Farm Strawberry Hill, bro.
The things that don't taste like shit, right?
Yeah.
That you can, you can
drop a green Jolly Rancher down on a bottle of Zima.
On a Zima? Come on.
Let's go.
Hey, that's a pot all in itself.
Yeah,
What is your family tree of booze?
Well, then you get to the point where you're supposed to have booze, but you've got no money and no ability to do anything decent. So
enter into the
Mad
chat.
Dog 2020.
Milwaukee's best, Natty Light, Mad Dog. I was a basketball player, so some old English every now and again. It was fine.
Nothing that turns my stomach more now today than the smell of Mad Dog 2020.
Yep. Well, then fast forward from that experience in our not teens, we didn't allegedly do anything illegal, but into the young 20s through married life. We both got married in the early to young 20s, mid 20s. Had a few kids. Again, not together. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Just not for us.
Just not for us. And so I worked for the man for a long, long time between a few different companies. You're starting these businesses over the last 13 years. And we go on vacation all together with our wives. They're sitting in the sun. We're back in the shade, sipping on cocktails. And we're like, listen, we've just gotten into this world of whiskey, bourbon particularly.
And
maybe
craft cocktails. That was the big one for me because like the whiskey sour and some of those that are more elevated that you don't get a lot of places because we're in Belton Temple. You were in Georgetown. You had access a little more. There's a few more places in Georgetown that have that type of elevated cocktail. Belton Temple has nothing like that. And so that was my real drive was, man, I want a place in Belton Temple that I can go and get an elevated cocktail. So entered, hey, what if that was our deal? What if we did that together?
Just a little speakeasy bourbon bar, maybe 1,200 square feet at its biggest.
Yeah.
It'll be a super vibe. We're both really intrigued with that. We could run it with almost no staff because we didn't really want food. And from that point, we're like, okay, this could be a viable option for Jared to quit the corporate gig, where I would be kind of that operating partner. You bring a lot of the development, the GCing of the construction, the chief financial, all of those things. And besides, it's just something different because I can't imagine that being an attorney while it may be fulfilling and can bring you some contentment, it can't be fun all the time. As a non-attorney,
Yeah, think of
it can't
all
be
the
fun.
attorneys you know, and think of how many of them you just want to sit and hang out with for like an hour. Like it's not a profession that really attracts a whole lot of
Right.
excitement
Right.
usually. And so yeah, it is fulfilling, and that you get to help other people. And that's really primarily why we continue to have the law firm and continue to do business, is because we are able to help people that we know and love and care about. And so we do that on the real estate side, on the estate planning and probate side, and on the business side. But really, like anything that's like litigation based, anything that's, personal injury, criminal, family, any of that stuff, no, thank you, not interested. But just helping the clients that we've got currently. But the draw for me is just I have a problem, I think, with I am a serial
One of many
entrepreneur. Like it gives me so much enjoyment and excitement and passion to do new things.
Yeah.
And so like being able to have a vision and to like, hey, F it, let's go.
Yep.
Like, let's try it, because the worst thing that can happen is we end up back at ground zero. Well, guess what? That's where we started in the beginning. So we're not losing anything. I'm not afraid to lose everything and to start over, because we created it in the first place.
Yep. And I think what's cool for me, when you're on the other side of that, you're working for corporate America, and the job you're doing is making a few people very rich. But again, it was a great job. I was super content. But I was
stop saying nice things.
Right.
Working for other people sucks.
Now knowing what I know now, yes, yes. But I think about, hey, the genesis of their company, every big company had to start as somewhat of a small company, right? So I'm sure they at some point went through the same challenges and ultimately grew.
100%.
But I think for me, it was the unknown. And I don't know that I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I had gotten to a very creative space where it's kind of my gifting, my strength is I just want to be creative and do things that nobody else has ever done.
Yeah.
And I can't do that in this current role that I was in, working for somebody else. To have that kind of freedom can only come from working for yourself. And so we're fleshing this idea out in Mexico. I would say that concept phase probably took a good year before we came down and said, okay, wait, are we really doing this? Are we really about to make a plan for Jared to quit his corporate job? It wasn't right away, obviously. Still needed a check while we were thinking of shit to do. But are we really about to do this? Do you remember that seminal moment where you were like, okay, we're in, we've talked about it. We don't necessarily know what we're doing. Excuse me. That's the booze talking.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know what we're doing yet.
Yeah.
But we know that, hey, let's start conceiving the plan that takes that from concept to, oh, this is an actual business.
So for me, it was, we had the conversation, and one of the first things I do when I'm considering a new business is, okay, let's look at the numbers. Like, if it's fun, that's great. But what's your entry cost? What's your overhead going to be? What's your burn? And how much do you have to do in order to make that burn? So kind of just looking from the numbers perspective, from the logistics perspective, how realistic is it to actually make money?
Yep.
And so I started looking through at selling liquid.
Yep.
Booze.
Spirits.
There is such an incredible margin on booze. And so for me, it was sitting there running the numbers, scrolling through the TABC, Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. We love them.
Shout out. They're our favorite people.
Scrolling through all of their rules and regulations, which are not clear or helpful.
I guarantee written by an attorney.
Yeah, 100%. And so when I got through all of that, I was like, hey, this really could work. Like the little small concept, 1,200 square foot, booze only, cool vibe, great craft cocktails. Like this could work.
And I'm on the other side of that thinking that's all I needed to hear, that the finance man said this could work. And so I immediately start designing okay, let's think about the brand. What are we going to call it? We went through so many iterations of names and logos and colors. And for me, that is so fun and rewarding.
Yeah.
It's like when you take yourself back to that first yard you ever mowed. It's
Oh,
immediate gratification because you can see the work you did.
great analogy.
So that development of concept for me was like, man, if working for yourself always felt like this, that's a lie because it doesn't. But if working for yourself always felt like this, you're right. I never want to work for anybody else besides myself ever again. And so we started thinking about that. We got the word, hey, I think this is something we can do. And that's where it snowballed because your wife had recently gotten into pickleball. It's the nation's #1 growing sport.
But this
Incredible.
was back in
This is way back.
2022, maybe. This was almost,
Yeah.
this was 3 years ago.
Before like all of the other pickleball concepts and anything, she just enjoyed playing pickleball. They had found the game. She had a
Mhm.
group of ladies that she always played with at
Yeah.
least once or twice a week. And so she's like, hey boys, what if we put a pickleball court, at the bar?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, we'd kind of have to move out of the little shopping center we might have thought we'd probably been in. But yeah, let's just make it a ground up build. You happen to have some acreage that didn't have anything on it. We cleared it out. Old motorcycle shop, bye-bye. Some,
That's
deadwood
a whole
trees.
episode in and of itself.
That's it.
The motorcycle
The
shop we
motorcycle
had
shop.
to remove from our land
Yep.
in order to
The trees we cut down ourselves.
yeah.
And then you're standing on that pad of land and you're like, hey, instead of 1 pickleball court, what if we built 3? And then I chime in. I'm a yes and guy.
Right.
So I'm like, yes. And what if, because you and I both, we front a dad country cover band on occasion, but we're thinking, listen, if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a margarita in the bar and you got to have a stage for live music. And so, well, hey, we've got some land. We've got all the space we need. So what if on the opposite side of pickleball, there's a live music stage? And I think what started as a 1,200, 1,500 at its max capacity square foot little shop in a shopping center where we're going to have a speakeasy and bourbon craft cocktail bar.
That the finance guy was very comfortable with, but the problem is there was a transition that happened. There was this movement that happened in the discussions that went from like just the like practical, numbers-based, pragmatic, responsible mode to the vision casting mode. To like the dream mode. And we kept saying, you know what? I mean, if we're going to dream, like we need to dream big. Like we've got the land. Like, why not? What's stopping us? And I'm like, well, money. Money's a big deal because
money's the big stopper.
Neither one of us have a big trust fund. Neither one of us have any type of relationships with people who have a ton of money and no sense and want to just throw money at things like this. Like we were going to have to figure out from the ground up, every dollar we spent was a dollar we were going to have to either earn or borrow or convince people to invest in us and in the vision and in the dream in Belton, Texas, in this population, 26,000 people. Temple's got more. We're kind of Belton Temple. We're between the two, but so in the talks, it became more vision casting, dreaming, big picture, and the pragmatic, responsible side kind of took a back seat.
And that's where it gets real interesting when you put our two families together. Is so I am married to an Enneagram. What is she? 6?
6.
She's a spreadsheets. She's a loyalist. She is a ready, aim. Nope. Let's go back to ready. Let's keep aiming. Nope. I don't like the way that looks. Let's think about this some more. Ready, aim, never fire.
She's going to consider the worst possible situation, and then she's going to backtrack and prepare for the worst possible situation all the way through. Multiple times before you actually get to the situation.
And the good Lord knew that. So she balanced her out in our marriage with a ready, fire, aim guy, right? I'm an Enneagram 7. I love to be the life of the party. I always like to think of the cool things. I never think of, oh, this is a cool thing, but how much would that cost to do? Right.
Yeah.
And then you get to you and Carrie, your wife, and Carrie, she likes the finer things in life. She originally hated when I called her bougie. Do you remember this? Like this whole thing. Like she thought it was such a cut down. What do kids call that now? An op. She thought I was being an op.
Yeah.
Because I called her bougie. But to me, it was like complimentary. Like, hey, you're fancy, you have a great eye for design, you like things to look a certain way, and that certain way is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
This 7 loves the way you think. Bougie is a good thing.
Enneagram 7.
Enneagram 7.
Enneagram 7 is life of the party, always has FOMO, wants to be involved in anything and everything, wants to do all the things, crams 19 tasks into the time that you could probably really do 4 because they want to do all the things all the time. So great a 6 being married to a 7.
And then you get to the pragmatic but serial entrepreneur. And the thing you guys need to know about Josh is while he is very pragmatic in the way he thinks about it, he still dreams first.
Yeah.
He's not pragmatically looking at things that are already existent. You know, you got a little bit of a 7. You got a dreamer in there, but more than anything, you're the winner.
Yeah.
You're the lion, right?
I'm a 3, an Enneagram 3.
No matter what you start, you have to win.
You have to win.
Even when you're not competing against anybody, because what we have created, and part of the reason we created it here in Belton, Texas, is it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. And so to win against, it's like running a 100-yard dash where nobody else is racing against you. You're like, all I'm going to do is win.
Yeah.
This can only go one way, and that is super well. We can make a ton of cash doing this thing too, which was never the goal.
Yeah.
I think the goal is for the people, which when you dig into kind of our brand values and core tenets, like that's what you get to with Commonwealth, the bar that we own. But it was never, the goal is not to make money. That's a result if the goal is achieved.
Yeah. If you do everything right, you will make money.
But
eventually.
But own a bar, they said.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, okay, so what happens now, we've entered, this is the vision, this is the dream. And that dream on paper grew to a 10,000 square foot air-conditioned, climate-controlled building on 2 levels on a 3-acre property with a 7,000 foot patio deck surrounding 3 pickleball courts with another acre-ish for a turf yard for kids to play, concert stage, Edison bulbs, picnic tables. It's like we melded everything that we ever loved about any place that we've ever visited into our dream.
Mm-hmm.
And that was both fun and then became scary. And then not scary like I'm scared of doing this, but scary like, damn, this costs a lot of money to build, right?
Yeah. There were definitely times where I look around and I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Like, what was I thinking? This is the stupidest thing I've ever agreed to be a part of, to be involved in. It got to a point where I legitimately hated the project because of the stress and the strain that it was taking on me and my family. And it's like I took every good decision I've ever made in the last 15 years from literally $0 in my bank account to where we were at, comfortable, multiple businesses doing great. And then I cashed all that shit in and
put it to the middle of the table, bro.
And it's like I haven't even seen the dealer's cards yet. I don't even know what we're up against, what we're working with. I just know we have potentially sacrificed everything that we've worked so hard for over the last 15 years. And it might not actually work. And there were times where we were like, we might not even actually get it across the finish line.
And I'll tell you what, in most commercial builders, we've got some buddies in the industry in a lot of different facets. And a lot of commercial builders will say, expect to pay twice as much and it to take twice as long. But when have we listened to anybody, right? Don't tell me what to do. And so Josh is going through those emotions and I'm just dreaming. I'm like, you know, all the cool shit that we're going to be able to do here. And then it starts to get real and we still can't really open it because then you're waiting on the city, who we also love being our partner, City of Temple. Shout out. Thank you. And they are great partners, but there is a lot of red tape that when you're building this kind of building. And interesting fact that people that have been to Commonwealth may not know, we never wanted to do food in the first place.
No.
Because we saw it as the one kind of piece that we didn't have a lot of actual experience in with that side of the restaurant, right? The back of the house, the kitchen. Our original vision for Commonwealth was to have 3 or 4 food trucks that serviced our bar and restaurant and pickleball courts and live music venue. We wanted, because we didn't want to have to worry about that.
Right.
And then we listened to some people in the industry and they're like, listen, if you do it right, that's not the part I listened to. But if you do it right,
Mhm.
it can be a good moneymaker for you.
Oh, that's what you listened to.
That's what I
you
listened
heard.
to.
Okay.
And I was like, well, hell, we might as well do our own restaurant and food and everything, right?
Yeah,
Like,
let's-
why not?
let's
How hard
make-
could it be?
Let's make a 2,600 square foot state-of-the-art custom commercial kitchen. And let's then figure out how the hell we're going to staff it and manage
Yeah.
it and run it and all the inventory that goes along with all the fucking food.
Yep,
Oh, sorry, that
exactly.
was the first. That was
Nope.
the first F word. Sorry,
Dude, we're on the internet. We can say fuck all that we want all the
Okay.
time.
Well, my mom and dad are probably also going to watch this. So,
Cheers. I'll bleep it out. I'll bleep it out.
There you go. We'll edit it out. But yeah, staff it, do all the inventory, and then do all of the like making sure it's the quality that you want and making sure that it meets the expectation and the brand and the culture and the vision, all the things just with the restaurant piece. Like there are people
Yeah.
that open just a very small restaurant and that's it. And that's enough.
Yep.
We thought, let's add that to what we're already doing. That sounds like a fantastic idea
Yep.
to load onto the already overloaded wagon that has one burrow up front that is about to collapse under the weight of towing this damn thing up
Yeah.
the hill.
So for all you guys that are our age, it was like Oregon Trail met real life opening a bar, and everybody had dysentery, and we're about to cross a river.
We got to ford a river that's
Yep.
deeper than you
And
thought.
you can't make money until you're actually open, and the city has signed off, and TABC has signed off. Like you can't take $1.
Mm-mm.
So all we had was money pouring out.
Yep.
Right. And that was also, it's not that part was exciting and invigorating. It's not when you just see checks and dollar signs leaving and nothing coming in. But what it did is I think it continues to motivate small business owners that if you waited, and we could have, if you waited until everything was perfect to open, we still would not be open
you're
8
right.
months later. And I think that's the point that we came to, is we knew, Josh, that we had to figure a lot of things out, because the location that we're in Temple, Belton, the Central Texas, we're really in between Austin and Waco. And we wanted to have an incredible craft cocktail bar, but we knew we had to make drinks fast, right? So we don't call our bartenders mixologists. They're not.
No.
Mixologists get paid for the show, not for the cocktail.
Right. Yeah.
And
They're doing rainbow shit
exactly,
over their
yeah,
head
yeah.
with all the
Vesper
things. We don't
martinis
do all of
and aerating their vodka and all the things, doing things with forceps. No. We knew we wanted to be craft, but we had to meet a volume because our occupancy is up there on 3 acres, 10,000 square foot inside. Our occupancy is up there, and we wanted to provide a place for community more than anything else. And when you look at our name, Commonwealth, that's what our two families kept circling back to, is listen, this is first and foremost for the community. So what did I do? Thesource.com. That's another word for community. I found the Commonwealth. It was bougie enough for Carrie.
Yeah.
Rustic enough for me on the side that it's for the people, for the good of the people. And that's where our brand kind of hit and really took off. And then we're like, listen, what do we have to do to get open?
Yeah.
And Josh, on May 22nd, we decided to open. On May 22nd, it was going to be friends and family. The first night that we're open, we can actually take dollars for drinks. And we put it out there that, hey, friends and family, we knew this was because we needed to practice.
Yeah. And we had scheduled 2 waves. The
Two
first
waves,
wave at 6
exactly
o'clock
right.
p.m., the second wave at 8 o'clock p.m.
Yep.
I still remember getting everybody together in kind of the bar area, the grand hallway in the bar area, everybody that was going to work that night, all of us. And it was like this incredible, like full circle moment where we were giving everybody a pep talk. And we were talking about how far we've come and how this was the finish line.
I
and
cried.
We were finally crossing the finish line.
I cried in every pre-shift, as I do. When I talk about things that are emotional to me, I'll get a little teared up.
Yeah.
But in that pre-shift, man, I'll never forget it. We've got all of our servers, our bartenders, our kitchen staff around us. And we're like, guys, even though you may have only been here for 4 weeks training, you've helped us get all the small wares, everything unloaded, touch up paint, furniture moved in and built ourselves, because we couldn't wait, right, for people to come in and have to install a lot of things. And it was that tearful moment on May 22nd. We had decided to open, and it's like, man, The dream that we dreamed 3 years ago on a beach in Mexico over cocktails that we had no clue would turn into what we have created.
Yep.
We're about to open that front door. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna need to refill both of our drinks for this next part.
Yeah.
Because what happens in that moment on May 22nd, we opened the door, we get everybody sat for the first level of service.
You expect the unexpected.
You do, you have to.
But so what was happening was the weather had been pretty good all day. They were talking about, hey, there's a chance that weather's going to turn a little bit.
Yep, could have some rain.
And we're going to have, some potential for some severe weather. Well, we live in Central Texas. We have severe weather all the time.
It's going to happen.
And constantly, like, you see clouds moving in, you see cloud. And so, like, if you live in Central Texas, it's kind of like living in, Oklahoma or some of those other places that are, that get a lot of weather. You kind of become desensitized to it.
Because Texas, the running joke is, if you don't like the weather, stick around for 20 minutes and it's going to change.
Yeah. And so, I remember standing on the pickleball deck, looking out towards the west and seeing kind of the formation in the clouds and looking where it was going. And there was a cell that had popped up that started to look a little scary, but it was going north of us.
Yep.
And seen this enough times, the Belton Lake, one of our favorite things to do is to go out on the boat on Belton Lakes. Best kept secrets in all of Texas.
Yep.
But Belton Lake, for whatever reason, normally breaks up lines of storms that are coming towards us. And so the line will be coming right at us and it gets to the lake and it just separates. And so kind of what this storm is starting to do, go to the north. So we thought we're good to go. Until we weren't.
And man, I'll remember it like it was yesterday, because as long as it took the dream to go from conception to execution to build out to we're ready to operate, Josh, in that moment, about 7:30, 7:45, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night.
It was a Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. Place is packed.
All of our friends and family had gotten there for the 6 o'clock seating.
They'd been seated. They'd ordered their entrees. They had gotten their cocktails and drinks. And it's a mixed bag of all of our friends, because they're your folks. They're our friends with kids. They're young singles from church or people that at some point we've come in contact with, because we wanted all shapes and sizes in there.
And don't forget that our families were all there. All of our kids
100%.
were there.
Yep.
Doing silverware, setting place settings, like sweeping them out. Like, they can't technically work because some of them are too young, but they were doing anything and everything. It was such a cool moment for our families and for our friends, everybody there.
And I remember because we have glass walls on the pickleball court side. That is the west side of our building. And you see the umbrellas on our patio start to be taken out by the wind.
All of them almost instantly.
Yep. And Junior, one of the guys that works with us, our head bar back and facilities guys, he's actually chopping wood out here at your house right now.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, I think we should bring the umbrellas in. And I said, yeah, let's do it, because you can tell the wind's starting to pick up. And we're like, okay, it's a West Texas wind. Like, it's going to hit 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. That's no big thing. But he takes the umbrella out of the patio table, and it immediately drops him on his ass, and he's riding it like a pirate ship all the way across the deck.
Like Mary Poppins all the way across the deck. He got blown from one end of the deck, 7,000 square feet.
We've got a great security camera footage of this whole incident happening. And then that is the oh shit moment. Like, we come in, I bring all of our managers, you and I and Carrie and Christy and Chris and all of our front of house managers. And I'm like, listen, here's what we're about to do. I'm about to turn the music off. I'm about to whistle really loud. And we're going to get everybody in the bathrooms and the walk-in coolers.
Because by that point, sky turned green.
Yep.
Which
you
live in Texas, when the sky turns green, it's a problem.
When you're going green,
sirens
go watch the original Twister movie.
Yeah.
When it's going green, and everybody's Apple iPhone started going off at the same time with that emergency alert. And you hear it and you're like, hell, what is that? Like Amber Alert. No. That is not a tornado watch. It's not a tornado warning. There is a tornado touching down in your area. This is our first night of operation, dude. The 3 years that built up to this single day. Own a bar, they said.
Yeah.
And so I whistle real loud. We have our staff couldn't have handled it better. They really couldn't. We got all of our guests. We immediately lose power. We're going to fast forward this story a little bit. Everybody's in the walk-in coolers. We have 10 bathrooms in the entire facility, and they're not like just porta potty size. Like they're full size, giant bathrooms. So we get everybody in an indoor room where there's plumbing around them, keeping everybody safe. And you just see it our front door is made of reflective glass, so we can see out. People normally can't see in during the daytime. The pickleball and East Yard side both have glass walls and glass windows, and you just see it, and then you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the sound of 120-mile-an-hour hail raining sideways on your building that you had just spent the previous 3 years bringing the concept to life in building, and you're like, this is how it ends. I pushed all the chips into the middle and we bust on a dealer gets 21. That's the way it kind of felt in that moment.
We opened the doors to our family and friends at 6:00 p.m. on May 22nd. 6:20 p.m.
That's when
on
it was,
May 22nd. An F2 tornado hit our site and ultimately about another 3 miles or so worth of sites all down one of the busiest roads in Temple, Texas, up and down FM 2305.
Yep.
You can Google it. It's all over the news, everything. Luckily, we did not take near the level of damage that a lot of our friends and other business owners did. But our front door is a big, giant, custom, super, super expensive copper door that we had custom made.
Own a bar, they said. Yeah, that's what we needed.
It's got our logo emblazoned in copper on the front door. It's beautiful, but it's got a lock on the very bottom of the door. It's a big ass heavy door. The problem with the lock on the bottom is with the pressure differential of a tornado coming right in the front of your building, the top of that door wants to fold open. So I was standing at the front, holding the top of the door closed, had locked the bottom door, and I'm watching trees get snapped in half and fly across the parking lot, and I'm watching the sideways hail. And it really was like one of the most deflating moments I've ever had in my life. Because, like I said, we had just spent all this time, and I'm thinking of all the hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment that runs the HVAC that's on the roof. I'm thinking of the building, the structural integrity of the building, thinking all the fences, I'm thinking all the outdoor space. And I'm just thinking like, okay, well, either this is what totally ruins us. This is what sets us back to zero. We just got to figure out a way to start over. Or this is the moment that is the game changer.
Yep. And it's interesting because as soon as it started, it felt like it was over that quickly. It really did. And the perspective is the tornado started where we were. We were not wiped out. Businesses down West Adams, down the road, just, I mean, a half a mile from us, were completely lifted off the foundation. That was all that was left. We, relative to every other business that day, managed pretty well. But there was another seminal moment that was, okay, it's safe for us to go outside and look around, which we did. And I'll tell you, it brought a tear to my eye because there's not a lot that can get your wife to cry in a moment like that.
Yeah.
She's an emotional person. Yes. Don't ever cross her. Also, yes, ever. Ever. Don't ever cross her.
We're going to edit this out.
No, we won't. But it happened to be her and I walking to the pickleball side of the yard because that's where the first thing hit. And we walk out and we're like, hey, there's a couple of fence panels down. Seems okay. There's furniture blown everywhere, but nothing broken. And then we turn around almost at the same time and look, our building is stucco on the outside. So you can imagine what 120-mile-an-hour straight line hail does to a newly stuccoed building. And she and I almost turn around at the exact same time and just start weeping because it looks like a seventh grader's face. Acne all over our building. Giant divots and holes in the face.
I was going to say a giant shotgun had gone off.
That would be a better analogy.
Yeah, seventh grade acne was...
A million shotguns or a million seventh graders, faces full of acne on our building. Which still to this day, I'm battling with Carrie, who has designed our interior and exterior. I want her to keep it. I want to keep, because to me, they're battle scars. But largely, Josh, we open on the night that a tornado hits. And it's I think for all of us that night, the incredible thing is everybody got home safe. There were no deaths inside our building. There were no injuries. Now, all three of my cars, my kid's car, my wife's car, and my car, all totaled from the hail
All
that
of the
evening.
cars were totaled, yeah.
Building, roof, AC damage, but relative to every other business on West Adams, we were incredibly fortunate. Praise God, we were incredibly fortunate.
Yeah.
And we didn't take that for granted. And the great thing about, I think, where you find one of those, it's worth it moments. And you have to, no matter the business, the bar we own, on a bar, they said, I look constantly for it's been worth it moments. So for me, is the hard, is the difficult, is the shit looks really gray like a tornado's about to hit us. I look for the it's worth it moments. And we had that one that night because our power was gone and it was gone for a few days.
Yeah, lost all of our food in the cooler.
But a lot of like our close circle of friends in the dark, we had a couple of bartenders stay using iPhone lights, right?
Yeah.
Flashlights.
That's one of my favorite pictures.
Bottles of Prosecco flowing, cocktails being made for this little core group that stayed that night.
Yeah.
So we opened to our friends and family that got shit on by a tornado. Everybody went home safely, praise God. But then there was that core group that just through that night were like, we're still here.
Yeah.
Like we planted the flag on the moon. We are still here. What else? If there's anything else could go wrong, could it top a tornado on opening night?
20 minutes after open for friends and family.
Right.
And you're right. We dodged a bullet. I mean, truly, because so many of the other businesses up and down, our very close neighbors, buildings totally gone.
And still haven't opened, by the way.
And so it's crazy to look at. We lost all of our food. We got damage to the building. We had all these things, but yet we're like, hey, we feel fortunate.
Incredibly fortunate.
And so a lot of that and a lot of life in general is about perspective, because if you let things like that set you back and you get down to the dumps and you're poor me and you're whatever, you're never going to advance beyond where you're at.
Yeah.
You have to be able to look at that and say, you know what? Hey, F it. Like, we're still here. We're still going to like make this work. We're thankful for where we're at. And if you can just have that spirit of thankfulness and that spirit of like, hey, we're still in it. We're still going to run. We're still going to win.
You're still going to win.
Life will be so much better and so much more worth living.
And I'll tell you what, winning, it doesn't come from the finish line and crossing it first.
Right.
Winning comes from the effort and training, right? The effort that nobody sees. And I think this is the biggest piece of advice that I've learned as a first-time entrepreneur. I've done a couple of side hustles right before we pushed all the chips to the middle of this venture. A couple of little side hustles, but I always had that secure paycheck that I could expect every 2 weeks and work for somebody else. And those kind of things that we experienced were their problem.
Yeah.
Never my problem. But I think the thing that I would have to say, and my buddy Kenny, shout out Dr. Havard, my buddy Kenny always said this, listen, everybody wants their name on the building until you have your name on the building. And you realize real quickly, and you had dealt with this more on a level. Yeah, you had dealt with this a lot more on a level that I never had experienced. But everybody wants to do ownership until it's time to do ownership. Everybody wants the result of owning their business.
Everybody's version of ownership is different too. Because if you're not the owner, you look up and it's this, that must be nice mentality.
Yeah.
Drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The, oh, you're so lucky, or it must be nice. Like, oh, you know what? How about I call your ass every time I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I can't sleep because I'm having stomach pain because I'm worried about how I'm going to pay my freaking mortgage this month because I'm totally leveraged 1,010%.
Yet alone making payroll for the people that have chosen to work with us.
How about I call you when I miss my kids' sporting events because I'm still up here trying to work my ass off to make sure that you can show up to work tomorrow and like guarantee a paycheck. Like, how about I call you every time I'm working midnights, Saturdays, Sundays? Like, we don't get off days as owners. Hey, must be nice. I need a
Dude,
shirt that says "Must be
Dude,
nice"
I am making it today.
and a
Must be nice. That's
giant
going to the
middle
head.
finger on the back and
That's
say,
going
"Yeah,
to the
it is."
Yep, head of the queue. Everybody wants to be an owner until it's time to do ownership.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you where it works for me, because this change is the gig I had was remote. Okay. Coming out of COVID. Now my job was to travel, but coming out of COVID 2020, my job was largely remote anyways, but even the travel slowed down. And so for me, there was never a game that I missed for my kids, and I've got 4 of them. So a lot of games, never really had to miss anything. I could clock out. You don't get to clock out as an owner,
No.
but I could clock out at 5 o'clock, be with the family. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. But I'll tell you what makes it's one of those things that it's a worth it moment for me, is because your wife, being the designer she is, she's like, hey, all of the hardwood floor for the installers is coming today. Jared, you got anybody that could help us do it? And I'll tell
Help
you
us
what,
unload all of the hardwood
unload.
floor.
Yeah,
that is
we're
being
not
delivered.
installing, but you can imagine a 10,000 square foot building with vinyl plank flooring.
It's a shit ton of flooring.
Is literally
Yeah.
a shit ton is a measurement here in Texas. I don't know what you other people use for a shit ton.
It's about 3 of the front end of a giant bulldozer.
But I took my 3 boys. I have 4 kids. The 3 oldest are boys. And I took them and I was like, listen, this is part of it. And I'll tell you what, it's in those moments where it's like, this is a worth it moment, because every time someone steps in to Commonwealth, they're stepping on something that me and my boys did, right? Just like the doors that we've hanged, the paint that we've put on, the furniture that we've moved, the glasses that we've unpacked, the cocktails that we've made, the food that we've prepared, the leaves that we've blown off, all of those things is so gratifying. And it's hard, I think, for people that aren't entrepreneurs to get to that place where what I'm doing now will be worth it in the future,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not worth it in that particular moment. Because, dude, moving a shit ton of vinyl flooring, you cannot make it fun.
No.
You can put on any music. You can
make it less painful.
You can make it less painful, but dude, I had to come to the Pearson Farm hot tub the day after. My back was on fire. Had to get a good soak in, because I'm got that age. It's 45, 49 now. I was like, man, I've got middle-aged back disease, and this doesn't go well, even as much as I made my kids do that.
Yeah.
But it's those little moments, I think, that you don't think of as an entrepreneur ahead of starting the project.
But that's a really good point, and because worth it moments. So many people think about worth it as like, well, I want to own my own business because I want to make money.
Yep.
But if you look at how many successful businesses started because they were like, I want to make money. Like, first and foremost, I want to make money. There are some, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And there are some that were very motivated by money, and that was their number one priority. But I'll tell you, my experience has been the more successful businesses are the ones that are, I want to do it because I love it.
Yep.
Because I enjoy it, because of the process, because I'm passionate about it. There's so many other things.
Something that provides for the people, hits that vision.
And you hinted at it earlier, like money is a byproduct of doing a good job at something. And so if you do all the core tenets right, if you do all the things right, then money is the byproduct. That's a result, shows you that you're doing a good job. But when you are an entrepreneur and when you are starting something, you very rarely make money early.
Yeah.
It's much more of a long play generally. Now there are some things, we're not going to talk about crypto and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Totally out of my league.
Make your money in the first 6 weeks and then cash out of that thing.
But it's that long play, and you have to love something in order to be willing to get your ass kicked for the long play.
And I'll think it's been told, like, if you went and Googled right now, Josh, what is one of the worst things to put money into and start today? It's a restaurant.
Yeah.
It is one of those. And I think for you and I both, even though I'm a 7 and you're the 3, I think there's a winner mentality that, don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
Like I will be the one. If only one restaurant and bar is successful in the year of the Lord, 2025, damn it, it's going to be Commonwealth.
Damn right.
Like, it is going to be Commonwealth. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to have that competitive side.
1,000%.
And that is what is unfolding. It may have been dormant with the exception of beer pong or on the golf course for me, when you work for somebody else. But when you're an entrepreneur and start your own thing, particularly a bar and restaurant, you're like, listen, I'm going to win, damn it. If it kills me.
Yeah.
Right. And the cool thing about the place that we're in, and, you know, kind of the point of this whole pod is, what are those worth it moments? What's the struggle that's kind of led to it? Listen, you're not just going to hear Josh and I talk, although we've got branches of this pod that will go out into the cyber world a lot. But our goal is to hear and find those other stories, particularly of bars and restaurants. But your bar could be your own dental practice. Your bar could be a construction company where you build homes for people. Your bar could be anything that you've decided. First and foremost, listen, I'm going to do this with people that are close to me. I'm going to do this with my family because I think that's a crucial part of this that may go a little bit understated.
Yeah.
People will walk into Commonwealth, and you see it when there's first timers because of the way we've built it. Shout out Carrie, our designer, again. The way we've built it draws an awe factor as soon as you walk in the door for the first time. A lot of lights. It's very grandiose. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But you find those people and you're like, oh, this has got to be like some corporate office out of New York or Chicago that has both
tons of money,
tons of
designers, all the things.
This is a family-owned business,
Two
local
families
in Central Texas, that have leveraged everything, both monetarily, emotionally, spiritually. And it's that kind of adventure. But I think you find that in that worth it moment too, that it's like, not only do we patronize our own restaurant, we work our own restaurant. You've been in the Dish Pit recently. Our kids work there that are of age by the Texas Workforce Commission. Shout out.
Yep.
To be of legal
totally
age.
legal at all times.
To work there.
No questions asked.
But that's another question I get a lot because I have two kids. My third is of four is about to work there because he just turned 14.
What are their names and ages and birth
Yeah,
dates?
don't ask me that. That's a different pod. That's a different pod.
Okay.
But they're working there. And it's like in the corporate world, you chase work-life balance because I don't want to give my work any more than I'm giving my family. So you draw this line at a 50-50, right? I'm going to work half the time. I'll be with my family half the time. And, you know, say what you want about Jeff Bezos, but I heard this great podcast from him a long time ago where it's not about work-life balance when you're working with your family or you're starting something new. It's about harmony. Can you get those two things to sing together? Can you get them to sound good together? Because as a small business owner, which is what we are, that is not made. Commonwealth does not operate by I spend half my time there, that you spend half your time, half your thought, half your worry, half your stress there, and then you get to clock out. It's not. But if you have your family buy-in, you find a harmony where you're all singing the same song together in pitch. And while it's never going to be perfect, you're like, listen, if nothing else, we're doing this together. You know, the sneaky thing that I will never admit is Commonwealth could fail.
Sure.
There is absolutely a chance that it could fail.
If you and I both get struck by lightning and are not able to put our last breath of effort into it, there's a potential it could possibly fail at some point.
A tornado didn't kill us. So
that's true.
Lord, I'm not challenging you, by the way. That is not a statement to test you. But we refuse to fail.
Yeah.
And a large part is because our family has buy-in at the same level that we do.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to miss a couple of things. You're going to, and I think that's probably a whole nother podcast and how is that family dynamic in the background of an entrepreneur. But when they're bought in, you find those worth it moments a lot more, right?
One of the most rewarding things, and I'm also, my emotions are a little closer to the surface than most. So I cry probably a little more than a lot of dudes do, but you know what?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Come on.
Is when our kids exhibit some of the commitment and the passion that we want them to have, but you can't force that.
No.
It has to happen from their end.
It does.
And so when we send out a message on Sling, like, hey, we're shorthanded, and the first two to respond are your son and my daughter, and they're like, hey, we're in.
I'm in.
Go. Or when, you know, your son showed up, you told him, don't be late. Don't be late to work. He showed up 7 minutes late, and you're like, hey, I told you not to be late. You have to go home now. You can't work your shift. You're done. Go home. He clocked out and he stayed and still helped
Yeah.
set up the bar for the bartender for that day to make sure that they were set up for success. But it's like those.
Are you literally trying to
I'm
make me
saying,
cry
I'm trying
right
not to
now?
cry right now.
Yeah.
But when you see your kids and your family, you talk about buy-in, and you can give buy-in like lip service. You could say, yeah, my family's bought in. They
Yeah.
support me. It's not about supporting you. It's about like being actively 110% involved in the process and preaching that, not just with their mouth, but with their actions and with their attitudes, things like that are like, hey, we're not just bought in, like we are committed 100% to this. And having the support and the commitment of the family is it doesn't make it necessarily easier, but it does make it honestly, it makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
It makes it more like, hey, I'm not sacrificing my family. Like we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And I think it gives them an opportunity to feel like it's not just dad's thing, or it's not just my husband's thing.
Bingo.
It's our family's thing.
It's our family's thing, a legacy, if you will. And we don't approach it like, hey, we're raising our kids to run this business. We're not approaching it that way. But it has been such a breath of fresh air, because coming from corporate America, nobody in my house was bought in other than the job I was doing provided a paycheck to buy the things that they
probably didn't even know what you really did.
A lot of people didn't know what I actually did.
You were the is it Ross or Chandler from Friends that nobody actually
Chandler.
Nobody actually knows what Chandler does.
He's a transponster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody knew what I actually did then. I did things. It was fine. But I think that you said it right there. It's finding those worth it moments as an entrepreneur in the conceptual phase that lead you that, okay, there's something when you're holding all your chips. There is a completely other thing when all your chips include your family's chips, and you're willing to push that in the middle to say, hey, this is something I stand behind. Pass or fail, succeed or don't. We believe in why we're doing it. And because of that, we're pushing it all in.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately, I hope, what the cyber world, the interwebs, all of the things see from this channel. There's going to be a lot more curse words, a lot more fun, a lot more branch offs.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things. But I can't wait to travel the country and hear these kind of stories from people who have been doing it longer than 8 months in operation.
Yeah.
I really, really cannot. Bar, restaurant, company, reach out to us. That'd be great. I'd love to just hear your story. And we're going to have a lot of fun in different ways along the way with Own a Bar, they said.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about kind of the vision of what's our structure. Like, what do we want to do? How do we want to advance? What do we want next week's episode to look? Are we a weekly? Are we what's the schedule? What do we want to do?
Great point.
All right. I don't know if we'll edit this out or not, but maybe the best restroom break ever.
Dude. So
I didn't know we were going to talk that long.
Hey, note to self, take a piss before you hit record on the pod when you want it to be like that. And I agree. I didn't either. So the question being, what is the goal of this? How often are we going to be posting? So we're going to record, Josh, every Wednesday.
Okay.
Own a Bar, they said. It will post every Friday for consumption of the interwebs. Probably not next week, but after next week, we'll start traveling around to other businesses, a lot of which are friends owned, or have them here in the studio to kind of find their story. Hey, what's your success story, your future success story? What's your failure story? Because there's been a lot of ways that even just opening this place now where we have failed. And then you know, as the great special teams coach of Bobby Boucher's football team, we live to play another day. Okay.
Yeah.
We live to play another day. So we'll record every Wednesday. We're going to post our video on YouTube every Friday. We'll chop some things up a little bit. You'll get some organic content through Instagram and TikTok, through Own a Bar, they said. But you'll also find that some of these may be completely off topic, because that's just kind of the way we think.
Listen, this is probably the most composed and on topic and
ever.
Just scheduled.
Fewest curse words.
Like, this is probably the most reserved that you'll see us. But you can't you can't show your cards at the beginning.
No,
You got to
no.
you got to have some build up. You got to have some foreplay.
People need to. Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Nice. Wow. Now I'm thinking about other things, but I think this is going to be both a lot of fun. I think in an unexpected way, maybe a little therapeutic for, I think especially for men. Men have this struggle where we don't tell a lot of people the struggles that we go through.
Right.
We don't share because we feel like that's not very manly. But I think when you hear another dude especially say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," you're like, wait, you struggle with that too?
Yeah.
My hope is we find some other businesses, some other personalities that will be very candid and be like, listen, I had a dream. That dream is not what it looks like today. Because the dream we
100%.
had, dude, does not look like what we had today. It's bigger, it's better in ways, it's completely different in most ways than we originally expected this thing to go. But that's a little bit of what you guys can expect out there in internet land.
Yeah. And like for us, you know, this may turn into nothing. This may be us just driving around and interviewing friends and having a good time for a couple of months or years or whatever. And it may turn into nothing, it may turn into something. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? We're not in it for money or fame or whatever. It's just a really cool thing just to be able to sit down and talk through and just vocalize some of that stuff. But we'll have like hats and t-shirts and stuff like that. We'll have some merch. And if you want it, buy it. That'd be great. Hopefully. That is one thing that we didn't touch on very much is just how good you actually are at branding and all the media and all the social content and like everything you see for Commonwealth, everything you see for one of our other pods, Watch Us Drink, everything you see for this one is
live on Fridays.
100% created by Jared. I won't give him much credit because I don't want his head to get any bigger than it already is. He's a pretentious asshole.
That part's true.
We all know that.
Thank you.
The next t-shirt.
Per the comments.
That's what one of our commenters called us both on one of our live shows.
Fucking haters, man.
we're pretentious assholes. We have a bar in Morgan's Point Resort. Get over yourselves. I'm like, well, we'll see. But anyway,
let's keep talking. Let's have a whole pod on the things that I'm good at.
Okay.
It just ended.
It'll be a short pod.
I really do. I think it just ended.
Because
I'll tell you what, I think the thing that works with us too is I think people would be surprised when they get to know us just how different you and I are. I think our perspective on most things come from two different views. And I think we find balance in that, much like we would our marriages to our own wives. And you find balance to opposites. But when you focus on, hey, here's the why, here's where we really want to be, there's something incredibly cool about doing that with the people closest to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest fears that Christy, my wife, and I had with going into this venture is, listen, if we fuck this thing up, like, how does the family dynamic work between us? Because we were so close before we ever started a business together. And those of you who are probably out there that are like, yeah, I've been in business with my own family for the last 30 years. You know that struggle. Like, there are tense moments. I don't think we celebrate our own victories enough, but
I agree.
There's a lot of tense moments that come in that whole place of we're trying to build this thing. We know we're doing it for the right reason. We're figuring things out every day on how it can be better. But I think it's an incredible dynamic that I truly hope people see in watching these future episodes is, how's your business built? Who are you choosing to do business? Who are you choosing to do business with?
Yeah.
I think, which you and I have learned a hard lesson, that those people, whoever you put a checkbox by, have to be the right people ultimately, because any business is still going to center around the people you employ.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking the other day about, and we got through this analogy, talking about the same thing about people you start in business with.
Yeah.
And everybody starts at the same start line.
Yeah.
And you're all stretched out across the track and the gun goes off and you start running.
Yeah.
And The question is, who's going to run with you as hard and as fast and as long
Yeah.
as you're going to run?
Hard, fast, and long. You heard it here
And,
first,
yeah,
people.
you got to be hard, fast, and long.
That's a new t-shirt too. Hard, fast, and long.
Uh-huh. And so in our very short life cycle of our business, we've only been open 8 months.
Yeah.
Planning, 2 years before that, whatever. But when you look at the people that we started with and the people that we have left with us now, there are very few people who started at that start line with us that are running as hard and as fast and as long as we are. And people drop off and people say, I'm committed, I'm 100%, I'm in, I'm sold, I'm this, I'm that. And it's just words. And
everybody wants to be an owner until you have to do ownership.
don't tell me, show me.
Right.
And the pool of people that I am willing to go into business with has always been very, very small. I was nervous about going into business with family just because every bad ending started with going into business with family.
Let alone probably a 7.
Right.
Right.
But I will say that I don't have partners in any other businesses and any other things we've done. I've never had a partner because I don't feel like there's anybody who's willing to run as fast and as hard and as long as I'm willing to run. But in this business, you are 100% that. And I will do any number of businesses with you. And that's why we're already starting to talk about new ventures, new things, and new ideas. And that's the danger for a serial entrepreneur, is because you feel like I'm going to win. Like whatever we do, like what do we want to do? Because we're going to win at it. We're going to do it and we're going to win. The world loves winners.
World loves winners.
And what do winners do?
They win.
Winners win.
And the world loves underdog winners.
That's true.
More than anything.
That's true. Because that's another important point is we're not like, we don't have trust fund money.
No.
We don't have like anybody in the world who's willing to just write us a blank check. There's no bank that would finance our project. That's another important point to bring up.
We are in the trapeze of small business without a safety net. We are in a fucking circus, and and I'll tell you, this is a great question, Josh. This was proposed to me a long time ago. Shout out Dr. Taberley. This was in my communications class. One of the very few things I both attended and listened to.
I was wondering.
But he asked, roller coasters, their excitement, but they're false excitement. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, would you get on a roller coaster, Josh, if you knew that 1 out of every 100 times that roller coaster went off rail and everybody died? Would you ever get on the roller coaster? And you don't know, it could be back to back. It could not happen for 198 times after. But would you ever get on the roller coaster if you knew that 1 out of 100 times, a 1% chance that it could all be over as quick as it started?
Really good analogy. Only in small business, it's like 1 out of every 4 times.
And in restaurants, it's 1 out of every
2 times.
2 times. It incrementally.
It actually only works 1 out of every 10 times.
Right.
The other 9 times, everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
God.
And I think that's both the adrenaline rush. It's where our personalities as competitors, even though we approach things very differently, it's where we kind of meet in the middle. Is listen, we're going to win, and we're going to win in spite of our shortcomings, but we're not going to win in spite of ourselves. And that is and it echoes you. This is the first like business partnership that I've had to really rely on the things that I'm not good at to get done by your side of the business, right? That I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And bringing our wives involved, and the same thing could be said for them. If both of our wives serve in different areas of this same business, I don't want those areas of business, because if I was trusted with that part, we would fail.
Yeah.
I'm smart enough and old enough to know that of what I'm not good at. And if I have to do that, we're going to fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of that cool harmony that we talked about earlier, when you find doesn't have to be family, but you do find it with the right business partner.
Mm-hmm.
And probably an own a bar, they said, when you see that. And I think this whole pod, this whole vision for this thing comes from the curiosity side of us are there other people that when they started, whether it's successful or their business ended 10 years ago, are there other people what are the questions they ask themselves when they're starting, when they open, after they've been open 8 months?
I want to know what the original vision was,
right,
and what they ended up with and where they're at now. Because I feel like for some people that could be vastly different. And for some people, it could be, yeah, that's pretty much like what I targeted and where I wanted to be and where I ended up. And you're like, okay, well, how'd you do that shit? Because we're so far away from that.
And you look at, and I brought up Bezos earlier. And again, I've never met him. I have no clue what kind of actual man or human he is. But the dude started selling books from his garage. And as soon as Al Gore invented the internet, he put books
Shout
online.
out Al Gore, thank you.
He put books online and people found him and bought them. And then he found other things that he could put online for sale. And now one of the richest guys in not America, but the world. And I can't believe that his goal in that garage was ever, I want to be the richest guy in the world. I can't believe that. I don't think it ever was. I think if you learn his story, and probably Elon, very similar. Elon's still one of the richest guys in the world, doesn't give a shit about being the richest guy in the world. He's like, I want to create cool stuff that serves mankind.
Yeah.
Elon, I believe in speaking things into existence.
Here we go.
Your bar is Tesla. It is SpaceX. It is all of the things. I want you on this pod. I need to find out from the man himself. We live in Texas, Space Station, Texas, Space City. He is incorporating a city in Texas.
Yeah, I think it's already been incorporated.
I think you're right.
They're down there on the coast. That's where they do their launches from.
He's got the Gigafactory 45 minutes from us right now. Elon, I'm speaking into existence right now.
SpaceX, like the actual plant is in McGregor, which is 20 miles away from where we're sitting right now.
So come on down. Come on down.
We're basically your home, Elon.
We really are. But I believe, and I think that's why, Josh, I continue to believe that this will be successful. When you don't measure success in dollars.
Yeah.
I continue to believe this is successful because we're doing it for what we believe is the right reason. It's the good of our community. It's the good of our people. It's providing a place for community. It's providing a place, our bar and restaurant particularly, providing a place for date nights, your church softball group, your book club, your bourbon councils, your pickleball leagues, your live music. We knew that we wanted, and I think that's where the dream grew, is because we found a lot of the things that we love, we have found that other people really love and want to enjoy and don't have a place to do here. So let's just provide that place.
Yeah. But I think like when people are in small towns, especially, or in small communities, or in, not DFW or San Antonio, Houston, in Texas specifically, but they allow themselves to be limited by where they're at and what they're doing. So nobody would say like, I literally want to change the world from my little place in Belton, Texas. We don't dream big enough.
No.
We read the book Unreasonable Hospitality
as
we were getting into the hospitality business. And it really opened my eyes into like, you don't necessarily have to change the world all at once, but if you can make life different for that one person a day that comes into your restaurant, that you make feel special, that you create an experience for,
right?
You are unreasonably hospitable to this person and you create a moment. Well, then you can do 2 or 3 of those. Then you can do 4 or 5 of those. Then you have multiple locations and you're doing 20 or 30 of those. But it starts with doing the first one and being able to dream big enough to say, yeah, we are going to change the world in some way.
Yeah.
Now, our change the world may be in the heart of one person that had a great experience at Commonwealth that, that inspired them or that touched them or whatever. But being able to do really cool things, to have a big picture idea or a big dream and not feel like, well, I'm just in, I'm in a little Belton, I'm in a little Temple. Like I'm really not gonna be able to do much of anything because I'm so small. Hell no. Fuck that.
Yep.
Go do something big.
I'll tell you what. It's been one of my favorite messages that I heard long ago at summer camp. Okay. And it was at summer camp.
That was decades.
It was
like multiple decades.
30 years ago.
Okay.
30 years ago today.
Why is your drink so empty?
I don't know what there's a hole
full.
in
it's almost full.
It's my third, your second, whatever.
My sixth. It's fine.
On a bar, they said, I heard this message, Josh. It's in the good book that, hey, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can point from that mountain and say, move from here to there, and it will move. But what they don't tell you is you can point and say to move from here to there, but it's going to go pebble by pebble. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people see the mountain And it's a reason they probably don't start their own business
Yeah.
is, oh my gosh, the work, I could never do it. There's too much to do to get what I'd actually want. Or they're like, no, I couldn't be Amazon, because they see Amazon or Tesla or all these companies now,
What they are now. Yeah.
what they are now. They don't see when it was in the garage. They don't see when it was in a small room in a house with one camera and a couple of microphones that
Yeah.
we might have borrowed on credit to start, because we believe in what we're doing. And I think that is probably, if I could sum it up for Own a Bar, it's that we're moving mountains pebble by pebble.
Yeah.
And we want to know out there in the rest of Texas and the rest of the United States, eventually worldwide.
Yeah.
What kind of mountains have you had to move?
Yeah.
Because every big business at some point, I really believe, started as a dream that entered the world as a small business.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where now people come in our restaurant and they're like, oh, this is a pretty big place. Well, it's still a small business, big place, small business.
Yeah.
That we're still trying to figure it out every single day.
Yeah. I love that. I can't wait to interview other people and hear
Yep.
other stories and grow. I mean, and that's the funny thing too, is like when you're kind of in our mentality, you're like, okay, well, if we fail, we're not going to sit around and cry about it and be like,
No.
oh, we tried something and we failed. Oh, this sucks. We're like, okay, well, we'll repurpose all this equipment into
yeah.
something else.
What's the
We'll
next
use it.
dream?
Yeah, we'll use it for something else. We'll go do something else. Like,
Yeah.
even when you fail, it's not really a failure, because you created moments, you created experiences, you created memories along the way. And so every day that you're doing something new, or that you're doing something fresh, or that you're trying something different, like, hell yeah, let's
Yep.
have more days like that.
Own a bar, they said.
Let's have more days like this.
Own a bar, they said. Well, hell, I think we've reached the end of podcast volume 1.
So many things we
Own a bar, they
haven't
said.
even talked about yet.
I think
I
so many
thought
things
it
we
was gonna be-
expected to talk about that we
Yeah,
did not.
It was going to be a struggle to fill up, 30 or 40 minutes of time. I don't even know how much time it's been, but
the
I'm
drinking,
looking forward to next week.
the drinking and the piss break helped. Boy, did we.
Sure did.
We've learned a lesson
All right.
even today, folks, that just go use the bathroom before you hit record, because we want it to be continuous. We want it to have continuity.
You're going to learn. Jared loves words. Doesn't always use the right words, but
Don't
he
know
loves
how to
them.
say them, but I know they're out there somewhere.
fine.
If I say,
We're going to get there, and
Yeah.
we're going to make it work.
we are. Well, hell, Josh, we still have to end it the way we started our very first business together,
All right. Hey, it's for the good of the people.
for the good of the people. Cheers, y'all.